Hello, so I'm going to set a timer and we're going to see what we can do in just 10 minutes for 10 Minute Tuesday. Right, so I've got my A5 card. I've grabbed red because we're working in warm colours this month, and I'm going to just choose a really simple shape, and I'm making this nice and watery. There we go. And I'm just going to add a really basic kind of stylised leaf shape. And I'm trying to get a fairly flat wash, so an even colour. So you can see I've got a little dot there, and I can use a dryer brush to just lift it up, just the tip, and get a nice flat wash. I'm then going to take a tiny bit of a yellow, and I've picked a random yellow and a random red, and I'm going to add a little bit of that yellow to here. And then I'm just going to paint another one. And again, I'm aiming for a nice kind of fairly flat wash. If I've got a little bit that I need to pick up, dry my brush off. Grab another little bit of that yellow, mix it in. One of the colours that I tend not to mix is orange. And you can see that's got quite a lot of paint on there, so I'm just lifting some of that off. So it's interesting to do this and to just experiment with what kind of orange do these two make. To make it even better, I would actually find out what the paint name is, and I'd jot that down on this card. Now, I haven't done that at the moment because I'm still organising my palette. You can see I'm just lifting that bit of water there. So I'm practicing doing a flat wash, and I'm exploring some colour mixing. This is a repetitive process, and repeating really helps me kind of fall into being quite present and mindful, and I find it quite soothing. There's a certain amount of ease to it. You can see that I'm not beating myself up if my leaves are slightly different shapes or slightly different sizes. You know, that's okay. I'm going to see how much we can get done in 10 minutes. And you can see each time just trying to get a nice flat wash. So you keep going, adding that yellow. And you can see actually we're getting quite a nice, it's not a bright orange, it's kind of, it's very pumpkiny and kind of autumnal, which is really lovely. And then even more yellow. I'm just going to move, I've got a little bit of a hair there, so we'll get rid of that. Move to here. Excuse me, I have got really rotten allergies at the moment, so I am sneezing a lot. You can really see the colour difference there. So now, because I've got the line above, it makes it a little bit easier to keep them in place. Now, I can tell it's going to take me quite a while to move this because there's a lot of colour there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit and mix it into some yellow, I think, just to get close to that colour but a little bit more yellow, which I think there is, but I have less paint in the palette so that when I'm adding the yellow to it, it makes a bigger change. And the brush I'm using is just a really straightforward round, and it's a number 2. Use whatever brush you're comfy with and that you like. Because this card is fairly small, I'm using a fairly small brush. I'm struggling with this little hair that's sticking out a little bit on this brush. And we're getting quite close to that yellow. See how much paint there is there? So I'm going to take quite a bit of that off to get a nice kind of flatter wash of colour. According to the timer, we are coming up to 5 minutes. There we go. And I think this last one will take us very close to that yellow. now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the yellow and I'm going to add a different red to it. So same yellow, different red. So this time I'm going to make sure I've got a nice bit of yellow in here. And it is a little bit orangey because there's a little bit of that previous red still in there, but I'm okay with that. And now I'm going to grab a different red. I'm going to go for this one. It's quite a dark, deep red if you see it. So that might be quite an interesting one. And this time I am going to add just a tiny touch. And I've even washed my brush off. So I want, that red is quite a strong colour to add into this yellow. We want a gradual colour change. Now again, this is quite creamy the way it's going on. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to that, just to water it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to lift some of that paint, a little bit of the red in. This kind of colour mixing exercise really helps you to get to know your paints, which is always useful. And sometimes you find really gorgeous colour mixes that you would never have thought to mix together. So we've got about 3 minutes left. So I'm probably not going to get this whole card finished. But that's okay. I can come back to it when I've got another 10 minutes and carry on working on it. I don't have to finish every time I sit down at the table, to give myself just 10 minutes of being mindful and focusing on me. Now I put a little bit too much yellow, red in that time, so I'm going to add a bit of yellow back in, just because it was a really big colour change. There we go. And these are really earthy kind of yellows. That's quite a heavily pigmented little patch of colour now, so I'm going to add a bit more water into it. And another little drop of red. And we're getting closer to that red, but we're not at that deep red colour yet at all. See if we can get a bit more of a colour change here. Yeah, it's just starting to get more red now, which is good. Now I've left a little space at the end, you can see, and that is because I'll remember what colours and I will jot them just along there. If you don't want to do that, then you could absolutely go right up to the edge. You could also tape off a border if you wanted to. I've got about a minute of our 10 minutes left now. Now we are pretty much at that original, or we've got to the red. And so now I would pick another yellow, and I'm going to take myself a little bit of the red rather than a lot of the red. Otherwise I'm going to have too much pigment because that red is very strong. So I'll put some of the red there and pick up some of that yellowy pigment and move to the next one. And this is a kind of more opaque yellow, so I'm interested to see what will happen with these. If you hear any bings and bongs, please do excuse it. They are probably my son's reminders to go do Latin or something, because he uses my iPad for that. I'm feeling that this is very creamy, so I want to add some water into there. And the great thing, there we go, our time is done. The great thing about watercolours is I can literally leave it there at that point and just add some water when I come back, and I'll be able to just carry on. I quite want to finish the row, so I'm giving myself a few extra seconds because I do have time to do that. If you don't, just stop and come back to this and finish it as and when you have time. Now remember, you can do this with any colours, any two colours that you are mixing. It doesn't have to be the warm colours, I've just used those because that's part of our kind of theme this month. And because they're not colours that I use often, and I tend to use a ready mixed orange, so it's a really useful exercise for me to get to know, are there any oranges that I really like. I think I've actually got to that yellow very quickly. There we go. So I'm ready to start at that yellow and finish off. I hope you enjoyed that quick 10 minutes of mindful watercolours. Have a go. Please post up anything you create. Take care. See you soon.